Come on. How can you not want to dance to that? I know some of you are so annoyed right now. That song's going to be stuck in our head for the rest of the day, right? I'm excited that I get to end the series this morning, Summer Songs, and I could not put some T Swift in there for us. I told you at the beginning of the series when I kicked it off that my genre of choice is country music with a little bit of Bieber and Taylor Swift mixed in. So we had to finish off with Shake It Off this morning. I'm excited about it. A little fun trivia fact, John Neal got me tickets to see Taylor Swift live on the 1989 tour in Indianapolis a few years back. It was the best concert. That was like my birthday, Christmas, anniversary, like all the things in one because of the tickets being so expensive, but it was... I'm sorry, yeah. It was all the things wrapped up in one, but I'm so grateful. It was the best concert of my life, but I loved it so much, and I love her personality. It's pretty fun. But I know this song probably for some of us isn't a favorite like it is mine, but I do believe that this song has some insight for us into God's way of living, God's way of doing things. And I believe that just like all the other songs that we've heard in our At the Movies series, when we take things out of everyday life and we make them applicable in how they relate to us spiritually in our walk with God, we're really doing what Jesus was doing when he walked the earth. He did that. He shared practical examples of everyday life and shared principles from God's word and his way of living that would lead to a successful, fruitful life. So us doing a fun series like this, may not rub everyone the right way, but I just want to assure you that there is biblical truth that we can take from everyday things like even a song, Shake It Off. And we're going to get into the message this morning, but before we do, I want to read something to you that when Taylor Swift was asked why she wrote the song, Shake It Off, listen to her response. Shake It Off is a song that I wrote about having to deal with people on an everyday basis. Just kind of how human beings treat each other, talking about each other, questioning each other. It's just not just me who has to deal with it. It's everybody out there living their life. You have to learn to have a sense of humor about things after a while, or else you'll just live in an endless sea of resentment and bitterness and asking the question, why are people doing this to me? And rather than writing a song that was victimized in nature, I wanted to write a song that was joyful and give people a way to cope with whatever life throws at them, but also makes them want to dance. People can say whatever they want about us at any time. People can say whatever they want about you at any time, right? Taylor Swift says, but we can't control that. The only thing we can control is our reaction to it. And I figured, she said, we have two options. You can either let it get to you. You can let it change you. You can let it bitter you. It can lead you to not trust people. You can descend into insanity if you want. Or option two, you can just shake it off. Shake it off. We could stop right there today and be challenged and be encouraged. People can say, people can do, storms of life can come, but we can't control that. I repeat, we cannot control what people say about us. We cannot control what people may do to us. The only thing we can control is our reaction to it. And as God's kids, as his believers, as his sons and daughters, we also have two options. When we go through storms, the Bible says we're going to have things that come against us. There's going to be trials. There's going to be trouble. So when those things happen, when people say things, when people do things that maybe hurt or offend us, we have two options. We can choose our way, or we can choose God's way. And like I tell my kids and myself, we need to choose quickly and we need to choose wisely. Our way or God's way. And prior to our T Swift theology, we have Jesus. And we have our friend Paul, who was our OG shake it offer. Paul was our OG shake it offer. Jesus and Paul and many other people in the Bible, go read the Bible. They went through some stuff. They had some crazy things happen. And not just once, but twice and 3 and 4 and over and over and over again. They had some things happen in their life that was hard. There were storms, there were trials, there were people that were saying stuff about them. Paul had things said about him all the time. Paul had people who hated him. Paul went through some storms, literally and figuratively. Paul was accused of things he didn't do. So was Jesus. And yet Paul was determined to live his life God's way. And because of Jesus and the example that we have in him, first and foremost, and because of the example that we have in many other people from the Bible and Paul, we can follow their example. We can choose God's way. We can choose to live our life the way God intended. No matter what storms come, no matter what trials get thrown our way, no matter what people say or think about us, every single one of us are called and equipped by the power of Jesus on the inside of us. You this morning are called and equipped to keep our eyes on Jesus and to shake off whatever life throws our way. God designed us, the Bible tells us in Hebrews 12, this isn't up on the screen, to throw off anything that entangles us or distracts us from living the free life that God intended for us to live. He wants us to walk freely and lightly through this life. He doesn't want us to be bound up and full of all the things that the life throws at us. He wants us to learn to shake things off and walk freely and lightly the life that he has called us to live. It's possible. Say this with me. Because of Jesus, I am equipped to shake it off. And I want us today to take a closer look at our friend Paul, the OG shake it offer. Like I mentioned, Paul had been through a lot. And in Acts 27, he is on his way to Rome. Now, what's crazy about this story is that Paul had always desired to go to Rome. He wanted to get to Rome. Well, Rome was going to be a great place for him because he was going to get to be a spokesperson for Jesus. He was going to get to spread the gospel in Rome. It was like the highlight. It was where he was ready. He was excited. It was kind of like those once-in-a-lifetime trips. Paul was so excited to take. But what's crazy is if you read the Bible, the way he had to get to Rome was he was actually imprisoned for something he didn't do. That's how God was sending him to Rome, on a ship, imprisoned for something he didn't do. But Paul, being Paul, was just like, hey, I don't care how I get there. I'm just excited to go to Rome. Paul is on this ship, imprisoned, on his way to Rome. A storm comes, okay? This intense, crazy storm comes. It was dark, okay? Back then, there was no GPS. There was no, they used the sun, the moon, the stars to kind of figure out where they were. There was no navigation. It was dark. The storm, we just went out on Lake Erie up in Ohio where we were, and we were in broad daylight. It was intense, it felt to me like we were, I was whiplash because the water was so rocky. But I can't imagine being on a boat in the middle of the sea with it pitch black, storming, raining. Does that sound good to anyone? No, I cannot even imagine that. Just imagine it's dark, it's pitch, the storm is coming, nothing is visible. And they have to begin to throw off all the things on the ship so that they can just survive. The storm is going to break everything up. They're going to have to figure something out. So they start throwing off their possessions, their livelihood. Can you relate to that in life? Going through the storm, it's dark. You can't see what's ahead. You don't understand what's come against you. You can't make sense of things. You're trying to figure things out, and you're just throwing things left and right, trying to figure out, how am I just going to get through this storm? Can you relate? But the Bible tells us even the storm, even the shipwreck, they arrive safely on shore. Acts 28:1 says, once safely on shore, we found out that the island was called Malta. But I thought we were going to Rome. Malta, just in case you are wondering, is not Rome. Malta is not where they were headed. Malta is not the place that they had planned to go. Have you ever been to Malta? Have you ever ended up somewhere where you never planned on being? Malta is the place that you didn't plan on staying. Malta is the season of life that you didn't plan on experiencing. Malta is the layoff maybe you didn't see coming. Malta is the relationship that you didn't see ending. Malta is the emotional place maybe you never thought you'd have to experience. Malta is the place where someone was there for you who is no longer there for you. Have you ever been to Malta? Malta was an unexpected place, but yet the Bible tells us that they arrived there safely and that the people were kind. Acts 28:2 says, the islanders showed us unusual kindness. Kindness can go a long way, y'all. It says they built a fire and they welcomed us because it was raining and cold. So not only has this crew and Paul, the in prison, been through a storm, shipwrecked, having to get to land by little pieces of the boat, but now it's raining and cold. They're experiencing unusual kindness, which is great, but can I just tell you that if this was me and I arrived safely to shore, you'd probably, at least initially, are going to find me like by a tree, because it's raining, and I'm probably going to be curled up, crying, complaining, angry at God. I'm a master blamer. Anyone else master blamers? Like, I'm going to find every reason to blame everything else because I surely can't be the problem. And I'm going to be cuddled up because it's raining and cold. I'm going to be asking God, what is going on? But you know what our friend Paul, the OG Shake It Offer, is doing? He starts helping. He starts helping. Verse 3 says, Paul gathered a pile of brushwood, and as he put it on the fire, a viper, driven out by the heat, fastened itself on his hand. Can we just recap for a minute? Storm. Oh, first off, imprisoned. Storm. Shipwreck. Raining and cold. Now he gets bitten by a snake. Sounds like a pretty bad day. Have you had a bad day? I don't like snakes. Just the thought of that makes me want to cringe. He's cold on Malta, stuck and stranded, shivering, uncertain in an unfamiliar place. And Paul begins to help. And watch what the people do. Verse 4. This is going somewhere. When the islanders saw the snake hanging from his hand, they said to each other, "This man must be a murderer. For though he escaped from the sea, the goddess Justice has not allowed him to live. So here is Paul with his hand, a snake hanging from his hand, and the same people who just showed him kindness now begin to draw their own conclusions and assumptions about Paul and his life. Well, he's a murderer. He must have, with a snake hanging from his hand, he must have some sort of sin in his life. There must be something going on. He must be out of the will of God. And see, people do this in our life too. People are fickle. I'm fickle, you're fickle. All God's people are fickle. We got to be careful about people. People talk. People assume. People place judgment. Now, not any of us in the room, probably the online people. I mean, not, right? Sorry, online people. People are people, and they don't always have our best interest at heart. Like, I hate to break that to you. Newsflash, we're all a little selfish. And choosing God's way of living, choosing his way is simple, but it's not easy. And having the right people in our life matter. Having the people that are going in the same direction of us matter. And I love the example that we have in Paul. Because watch what happens next. Our OG Shake It Offer preaches one of the most powerful messages in the New Testament. And he doesn't use any words. How great would that be? He doesn't have to say one word. He didn't try to convince them that God was with him. He didn't feel sorry for himself. He didn't go on Facebook and write a response post about watch what he did. No. Verse 5, Paul shook the snake off into the fire and suffered no ill effects. Now, our TSV version reads it this way, the Taylor Swift version. Player's gonna play. Hater's gonna hate. Heartbreaker's gonna break. Hater's gonna hate. And I'm just gonna shake it off. And today, we can learn from both Paul and Taylor Swift that when the storms of life come and when all hell breaks loose on the shore, come on, y'all, I know there's some stuff that we walk through in this life that is not fun and games. When people talk, and they will, when it looks like this is the end, when we've been through some stuff and it just keeps coming, our response is to shake it off. Our response is to shake it off. Listen, the enemy is going to do what he can to get to you. He's going to try to send the storms. He's going to try to get you shipwrecked and off course. He's going to try to get you to an unfamiliar, unplanned place. And when he can't get to you that way, guess what he's going to do? He's going to send a snake to latch on and try to get venom and poison all into your heart. And we've got to learn how to shake it off. Because if he can't get us from the outside, he's going to do everything he can to try to get us from the inside. The venom of bitterness and resentment and offense and unforgiveness and discouragement and distraction and disappointment and unmet expectations and anger and deceit and greed. And when this happens, because it will, what will our response be? To shake or not to shake? That is the question. Paul shook the snake off right back into the fire. And after he shook it off, watch what the naysayers and the judgy, fickle people did. Verse 6 says, the people expected him to swell up or suddenly fall dead. But after waiting a long time, can I just tell you, people are waiting and watching to see how you're going to respond to life. People are watching. After waiting a long time, guess what they did? They changed their minds. And they said, he's a God. This is why we cannot put our confidence in people. This is why we can't allow people to be where our affirmation is coming from. We have to know who our source is, that our strength comes from God, that our courage comes from him, that we are who he says we are, that we are chosen and not forsaken. We have to know where our confidence comes from. People changed their minds. 1 minute, he's a murderer, and the next, he's a God. 1 minute, people love Life Church. 1 minute, they're offended and don't. 1 minute, someone's liking your post. The next minute, they're unfollowing you. Listen, we've got to be careful where we're putting our confidence. It's not in people. It's not in even our circumstances. It's got to be in God. And I love that Paul was not distracted by the people and what they were saying. He was determined to keep following Jesus, to live God's way, not his, and to be an example, to decide that he had a choice. He could succumb to the storms and being, overtaken by the adversity, but he chose to shake it off because he knew that God still had Rome in the plan. Malta wasn't the end, but he chose to make a decision in Malta to live God's way and not just do it his way and succumb and cower. He chose to shake it off and continue walking the life that God intended for him to walk. I love that the Bible even gives us specifics that he threw that snake back into the fire. He shook it off back where it came from. He didn't shake it off with his neighbors. He didn't shake it off on social media. He didn't shake it off to his friends. He shook it off right back into the fire where it came from. So what is it that you need to shake off? What is it that's latched on in your life? Now, I usually read through these lists. I'm a list. If you haven't learned that by now, I give all the things, right, that could. I'm going to go a little slower through this list because I want you to identify. I'm going to give some examples, but I want you to ask God right now, what is it in this moment? What in this season of my life? Maybe I'm on Malta. What is it that I need to shake off my life? What's tried to latch on and hold me back from the way that God intended for me to live? Is it fear about the future? Has that tried to latch itself onto you? Is it bitterness? Maybe there was an unmet expectation or a disappointment from people. Is it jealousy? Maybe there's a friend or a coworker that just got engaged and you're still waiting. Is it resentment, maybe towards a spouse or a parent? Is it envy about so-and-so maybe getting to ask to do something and you didn't? Is it pride? It's latched itself on. Pride thinking that you don't need anyone because you are the one? Is it lust? The fantasy world of what if? Is it selfishness? Where we go all week and we spend hundreds of dollars on our kids and activities and eating out and all the things, and then we come on Sundays and just tip God? Is it selfishness? Is it doubt? Do we really believe God's going to come through for us? Is that latched on? Maybe a better question we should ask ourselves is, what's distracting us from Jesus if we've got all these snakes attached to us? What's distracting us from Jesus? Is it over busy? There's no margin in our life to actually follow Jesus? Is it social media and TV and we just numb out because we don't want to deal with life? What's distracting us from being with Jesus and walking with him and following him and learning what his ways are? What's distracting? What has caught us up? Listen, there's so much pain in our world. You've experienced, I've experienced. There's division. There's so many things that can distract us from walking the life that God intended for us to walk. And he's trying to get us from the inside out. And are we going to choose to allow those things to keep latching on? Or are we going to shake it off and walk towards the freedom that God intended for us to walk? Come on, we are called and equipped because of Jesus to do this. Not in and of ourselves. We need him to guide us, to lead us, to give us the strength to do it, because I know life is real and I know things hurt and people cannot be so nice. But I'm just here to tell you that because of Jesus, because of the power that we have in him, we can shake off the things and we can be who God has called us to be. The Bible actually goes on to say that Paul on that island, because he was an example and they obviously then began to think he was a god, he healed and cured everyone on that island. Malta was not in the plan, but Paul chose to make that plan a mission field. Malta became a mission for God's purpose and glory to be revealed. And what is so cool about our God is that whether you are in Malta, you're experiencing pain and suffering, Rome is on the other end. And if we don't give up in Malta and we keep walking and keep choosing to shake off the things, Rome is on the other end. Come on, God is not finished with you. He wants the best for your life. He has good things in store. He wants you to live free and light. He wants us to shake off the things that try to hold us back.